This is Joey Malinsky. Did I pronounce that correct?
Correct.
Thanks for coming on the show, Joey. You're a filmmaker and editor and media professional in the Baltimore area. I take it, right?
Correct. Yeah, out of Hamden, North Baltimore.
Hamden.
Yeah, been here about 6 years now. Oh,
Okay.
6 years under my company, but been in the city for about 10.
Okay, so how about you start off? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, so I run a small video production company called ATV Productions. We specialize in nonprofit as well as comedy. We do web series, we do music videos, we do corporate, and we do brand film. So basically video production. I came from New York where I worked in like high-end commercials on the production side and learned that. But those were like, $15 million commercials. Then when you come to Maryland, that's not quite a market at all. It doesn't exist. So then you start like, what can you do? Oh, I used to be working with 12 million. What can you do for 12,000? And it's like, okay. And now I understand what we're doing over here, but I like it. I'm from Maryland, so I love Maryland and just video production in general. What I've been doing recently is a whole bunch of like comedy videos. So.
Okay. All right. So, we offline, we were discussing how we linked up with each other. And so I'm gonna be honest with you, ever since the COVID, me and a couple of colleagues decided to put together this, podcast. And I just went ham on like searching filmmakers, freelancers, and I just spammed the hell out of everybody. And, sure. some people are open-minded and they'll reply back but I know I auditioned for you at some point that might have been it, because I'll be honest with you, I've just been like attacking so many people.
Let me spitball back what I remember and see if it links up with you. Maybe you're not even that person, but this is what I remember. It's like you were early. I was doing some auditions because I do castings all the time, and I remember I liked your read, but you weren't coming from a background of actually acting necessarily. You were getting into it, and you had a military background to some set. So I was like, dude, I like this. I think we had a conversation offline, not even about the audition, but like basically saying like, hey, I think what you got going on is some truth, which I always try to look for an actor. I don't think you're 100% right for this role, but whatever you're doing, man, keep doing it kind of deal. Like I always like find people that are working towards their truth, whatever that be. And I could see it in that aspect of it. So that's why I remember, but I didn't remember that until I got on the horn here.
Yeah. No, I remember, because I do remember auditioning, and I recognized you from something that I had worked on or auditioned from. And especially, I think, just about all of us in the Baltimore, Maryland, DMV area, we've all like crossed paths. Yeah. So, but, it's funny you mentioned that. There's been a lot of that where if it was like 5 years ago, then yeah, I was definitely starting out. And I think my first 5 or 6 gigs was, officer something, detective something. And then I started like branching out a little bit more than that. But yeah, like
I know what it was for now. It was for casting. I was casting a truck driver for a move over PSA, and I needed some authentic look for that. That's exactly what it was. And it was a good role. Got 500,000 views. So, but yeah, it was yeah. I now remember it now.
Yeah. I remember that now. Vaguely, but there's just been like so many auditions, so many Skype auditions, and what's even great is that even before the quarantine, there was all the video submits and the Skype auditions and the Zoom auditions and Google.
Kind of how we've been doing it. It's easier. It's cheaper. It's definitely cheaper.
Even before the quarantine. Yeah,
and even in this time, because what happens is, unfortunately, Baltimore is not like New York, where we have good casting directors that are going to line up 30 actors that are going to be 20 of them are going to be great and pretty good, and then 10 of them are like okay. But here you have like 15 people might be insane. They might be like lunatics, and you're like, I'm just wasting my time. You know what I'm saying? So, not to say that everybody around here is lunatics, but I'm just saying the talent
most of us.
Yeah, exactly. we put the diving board on the shallow end, if that makes sense.
Exactly, dude. I mean, sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
But how have you been impacted, right now by the, in the last 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, once it started getting real, I'm not going to talk about that, but once it started getting real, we shut down, dude. Like we've been literally like from March to the end of May, maybe early June. Like I had to let people go. We just, there was no work at all, not a single thing. I did some editing from clients that I already had that was like, oh, I need to re-edit this. And we were trying to come up with ways to continue going, but basically nothing. So that's when I started going insane and started making TikToks like every day, which is why I love what I'm doing now. But now we're back up and running, and it seems like we're faking like it's not around, to the point where, like, not in terms of production, but in terms of like, let's be optimistic and let's try to kick these projects back off. Let's start doing more projects. And like my company's, we got to hire back 2 people, and we are now doing well enough for the moment, but we don't know what the future holds. Obviously, it could be, we're acting like with that second wave is not going to hit, that we are, it's not going to get completely shut down again.
Yeah.
But at this point, I'm come to peace with it. My employees know what the situation is, so it's not like if they'll see the whatever the signals coming, and it won't be, everybody, it's a hard time. As far as making the change in production, the production's junk now. You know what I'm saying? We're doing Zooms, cutting in between Zooms, and and doing remote interviews and found footage and all those kind of edits. And that's fine and dandy. And people are making commercials. We're learning how to work with it. We're, as it goes, people are more comfortable with what they can do, but still people are still hesitant about a crew. Real production takes many people. Many people is not an option. So we are, even in our ideas, we're not even presented big crews right now, just because it doesn't, like, I'm not at that.
Yeah. I lost a lot of gigs, and that's why I started doing this podcast. But luckily for me, I'm well versed in like live streaming and virtual conferences. A lot of the industrial corporate kind of world is shifting that way now. But I think in the long run, a lot of these organizations are going to realize that all the same content's out there and all the same experts are joining in, and a lot of people are still having fun virtually, and they're going to look at that budget. What was that budget 2 years ago at, the Marriott in downtown DC? And then what was the budget? Just people from home on Zoom. But everything else was exactly the same. And I think, down the line, it's going to kind of be of a hybrid, maybe.
100%.
I just did my first hybrid live stream conference last week, where there was a bunch of people on location. Originally, this event I think was set to be in Nashville, but everybody's working remotely except for maybe 4 people were at that hotel in Nashville. They were on stage with the mics, the whole set, at the podium, and they were also talking. It was like, but all that also that tele network was set up to where they were talking to people on Zoom.
Oh yeah. How cool is that we can do that?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one time I worked on after the hurricane that hit Haiti, I worked on this We Are the World type project with Mariah Carey was the singer, and it was for like Everybody Hurts. And the director virtually directed the gig from his apartment using Skype. And that was like 8 years ago, or 10 years ago. It might have even been whenever that was, wherever the Haiti hurricane was. So it's like, you could see it coming, and and people are used to it now. I think the adaptation of people using this technology was nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wants to see their face on camera, especially in the morning, especially, what I'm saying? Like, nobody wanted it, but now we're getting so used to it that it's like, get over that. And then now that they see like WeWorks, do I need a building? You know what I'm saying? Do I need people to be working at the same spot if we get the same amount of work done?
Yeah. Yeah. And before, I was always trying to reach out and like set up a situation where I could remote edit and then do voiceover work. And because I knew me and the wife wanted to have kids, and I was always hindsight was, how can I work from home and be with the kids and be with the family, spend more time here and be able to have like this backup. And the classic story that filmmakers with a backup, or actors with a backup, they're always going to fall back on that backup.
100%.
And I always wanted my fallback. I always wanted my backup to still remain within the realm of film, TV, audio, video, broadcasting of some sort, and that sort of thing. But
that's where I'm at too. I agree with that. I tried working from home, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like I'm like a person that I can't write in the same spot I do the edit. I'll have to be, I have these patterns that I have to do in order to get progress done. So that didn't work out for me, but I definitely love the idea of a nice house, a driveway and then a big studio office garage type thing. that I just, it's completely separate, but enough close that I'm there always, but I'm not there always.
Yeah, no, I definitely need like my escapes and like getting out and exploring, and because obviously it's those times where it's, if you're driving around or if it's nature, that's what's giving your ideas for this project or that idea or this content. And so now you're stuck in a basement. It's just going to be like all basement films, all like torture, like GIMP, Pulp Fiction 3 and 4 and 5 with the GIMP, just whatever.
You're into that, dude. I know a good art department guy.
So, well, I mean, personally, how do you say you've been impacted? I mean, how's that affected you or the family?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, my family's been great. The unit's been great. To me, it's like we cut out all the bull crap, right? Like once you're in a pandemic and you have to evaluate your life priorities, you evaluate your life priorities, and the ones that come to the surface are the ones you should be concentrating on. And I've made so much video for other people, and I've done so much work I got into this thing because I loved being goofy on camera. And then I was like, I needed friends to help me out. I was like, oh, I really like editing, but and I had a good friend that would shoot stuff. So it's like, but then eventually I had to shoot my own stuff. And to me, it came down to like, so I got proficient at the craft of filmmaking, but ultimately I wanted to tell stories and be goofy on camera. So that's what I'm doing now. And I'm just cutting out everybody else and just doing it myself because I have to. But also, quarantine, you were forced to. So like it made me I create multiple videos a day. I probably made 60, original content pieces, in this quarantine, including music videos, but also like just tons of written content. Improv, and I mean like acting. I know improv, but acting challenges and stuff. So it's like, I'm very much enjoying and so I learned that's what makes me happy as well. Like I love editing always, and I love supporting my family to where they get as many opportunities as they can. So I love doing the job of video production for a living, but I look at it as a trade. I'm a tradesman in video, and my love is being stupid on camera.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So have you been binge watching it? Has there anything that you've binge watched that's like helped you escape?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I kind of shut TV off because it wasn't giving me anything good. I watched Ozarks. I love that. But Palm Springs was a movie I just watched that I was like, that's what I want to make again. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, I don't know if you've seen that movie. It's Andy Samberg. Yeah, I loved it. To me, it was like, it's a rom-com for guys. And I was like, with humor and like, it's, that's what I want to make. And seeing that get produced for like, you could make that movie for relatively cheap budgets. I don't know what they made it for. They could hopefully they got a great budget and they all got to eat well, and I'm sure they did. But like, you could also make that. It wasn't no trickery. It wasn't nothing. Right. It was just good filmmaking, and I think that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that was
inspirational.
Yeah, there was enough CGI in that to like add that sci-fi effect to it. But I mean, when it comes to like the writing and the dialogue in that, I think they kind of like delved into what maybe Groundhog didn't, or maybe Groundhog Day did.
It did, yeah, but it's just it's not like we had to reinvent the wheel every time. Like they reinvented a really cool wheel.
Right. And there was that line where, and spoiler alert with Palm Springs and all, but there was that line where he forgot what he did for a living.
Yeah.
Like weird. How long has he been stuck in this loop? Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah, you felt real bad. It was just like little simple things like that someone might click in someone's brain, like, holy shit, this guy's been stuck in this loop for how long? He forgot what he did. He forgot what his job was, Yeah.
And I thought that was no wasted scene, no wasted dialogue, no wasted moment. Where like counterbalance it to something of one of my filmmakers that I love, but I thought the movie was very poor recently, not very poor, but poor, was The King of Staten Island. I thought that was a waste. I thought did you see that with Judd Apatow and Pete Davidson? I love Judd Apatow, but this was like, it was like, I don't know.
That's about the kid that wants to be a tattoo artist or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
And it just was like, I have high respect for Judd Apatow. I just thought that one was like so much more loose and so much more sloppy and so much more less care to the craft. I've always thought Sandberg was like top of the game and somebody close to my age group. Obviously, he's been killing it forever in video styling that I would love to be able to do. And I think he's one of the best. And for him to do that movie, obviously it was, director and the whole team, but like, I thought that was really good. It was cool to see.
Yeah, I've been glued to mostly like 80s stuff, like watching rewatching old stuff that I watched on like Tubi and Hulu, or just finding like some rare 80s stuff on these free streaming platforms. That,
what do you got? Give me a good one.
Cutthroat. Oh, jeez. I wish I are you an 80s kid or a 90s kid?
I was born in 83, so I would say I'm a 90s kid.
All right, so it's gonna take me a second to track this film down, because it's got that weird looking dude from the original Hills Have Eyes. He was in Weird Science as one of the house raiders. He's got that oddly shaped
head.
He's got
the face, the head. Yeah.
But it was like it wasn't Cutthroat Island, because that was that Gina Davis movie, but it's about like this. It's about like this cocaine cartel that's just killing other cocaine cartels, and it was this crazy. And have you ever seen An Officer and a Gentleman?
Mm-hmm.
So the blonde girl that dumped David Keith and then he hung himself. Mm. The blonde lady that faked a pregnancy in that movie. She's the star of this one, and so it's. And that's about as much star power as you have in it, and not to mention.
I like that stuff.
Yeah, not to mention
star power, especially when I have no idea what reference frame I'm in.
Man, I don't. It's gonna take me forever.
Yeah, no worries, dude. I was just putting on the spot,
yeah, and I totally forgot it. I just watched it, and I totally forgot the name of it. But it's just like one of those crazy. It looks like the writer and director is just like doing coke and just making like the craziest movie that's anti-cocaine cartel, but. It's here. Cut and Run. Cut and Run is what it's. Cut and Run. It's just this.
That sounds awesome.
It's also known as Inferno, I guess, because it was probably one of those Philippines co-productions.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, they would just shoot everything in the Philippines.
Did you see the Uncut Gems? Just because that was great,
bro. So I saw their first movie, Good Time, with Robert Pattinson.
I've seen that too.
And it's just like, stop doing what you're doing.
No, they're the only ones doing it, dude.
Well, no. I mean, like Robert Pattinson's character is just like, dude, stop. Just stop. Just stop.
Yeah,
just screw up after screw up after screw up after screw up. But then the very last 5 minutes was just like, at least there was some good out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still like kind of a semi-happy, if not just okay ending. And
ending.
And after everything Robert Pattinson did, it was like almost emotional. Like at least there's some light at the end of the tunnel for some characters.
Yeah.
Uncut Gems was just, there was no mercy. Nothing.
That sound design that they did, they kept you like they kept the monkey on your back the whole time. You're looking over your shoulder. You can't break any kind of tension. They never let you go. And then at the end, they don't. You're that moment you let your switch off, because they know exactly when you were going to let your switch off, didn't they? They were like, you let down your shield. Well, here we go, punch you right in the face,
and then boom,
and then you're like, fuck. And then, but that's brilliant, dude.
But if you watch it again, because I rewound, and the guy that was sitting when he locked up those guys in the glass room, he was sitting there, and you could just tell the look on his face. He's like, okay, just wait until you open.
Yeah. No, they definitely know what's up. He definitely knows what's up. Because that's what Adam Sandler was acting to be. Those, like, he wasn't the real deal. And you could tell that. And it was so crazy. Those dinner table scenes, just really good filmmaking.
Yeah. And Adam Sandler just really, like, let loose, really just experimented and, like, went outside his comfort zone. It was just the scummiest scumbag.
Yeah, he was good.
And to make matters worse, like, half the people he's got major beef with is like people that are family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best. That's why it's the best, because they have a position. He would have been long gone way before that if it wasn't. And you didn't even realize it till then. It's a really good laying out. I'm glad that style of filmmaking is being done, because, like, I'm stealing it. You know what I'm saying? There's no way. Like that, the pace of that, the Steadicam work, and then the speed and the and the freneticness and the long lens freneticness is like great. I mean, I already borrowed it in one of my shoots from like the movie Warrior. They do like a long lens, kind of similar, not quite as much pace or nothing like that, but very, very much that long lens style. And I think that's cool.
And it's funny you mentioned that long lens style. There was a shot of Adam Sandler walking down that one block. Like they just had him walk down an entire block under the little construction hangings. He was just, and you could tell by his walk, he's like, he's about to snap. He's about to just completely have an aneurysm.
And it's the first time you think you're going to get a break. Naturally, where in a movie you would get that, like when that part of that scene, because it's like we already established character, then they would like drop it back down and ramp it back up. But no, you just stay right there. And you're like, oh no, we're staying in this. This is not going to be good, you know, and then they just keep you going.
And it's just every single person in this movie. And there really is no like somebody that you can kind of say is the positive aspect to this movie.
Yeah, where you're escaping.
Yeah. Like, okay, there's hope for this person. Like there isn't. Like there was people tailing the girl at the casino. There's his ex-wife is just awful in her own way. I mean, not to say he doesn't deserve most of it, but but I mean,
the
like
son not getting it. You think the son might get it already, and then not until the car, and you're like,
and his son's kind of a scumbag too. Like his son's a little cocky jerk when it came to like sports. Well, weren't they like both?
They're both gambling on it. So he's using his son for a different reason. But yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, it's his father's son, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I watched so much. I can't even think of like the last movie. Me and the wife are watching Away. I'll tell you what I watched. So there's a show on Netflix called Away, and it's about a team of astronauts that are away from their families or their significant others or whoever it is they had to leave behind. And in this show, just like just about every other movie or other show, they're going to be the first people to land on Mars. And you know, like there's a husband with a health issue. There's a daughter with other issues, and so all these astronauts.
Yeah, it writes it. So I get it writes itself there because it's like you got the built-in distance, and we're thinking about it is permeating on the American and the world's mindsets now that we have UFOs and.
Yeah, but I think, of course, I think there's got to be some sort of investigation going on with these actors because Hilary Swank never ages. Keanu Reeves is just starting to age. I mean, who else? Paul Rudd never ages. I mean, Morgan Freeman's probably 80 and he still looks as old as he did.
You don't think that's internal peace and money? You don't think that's like when your dreams are answered, you get a certain sense of inner peace. Just like when you said, I wanted to live, work where I live, because that family gives you that inner peace. Well, that's your joy right there, right? Yeah. And if you keep growing on that joy, eventually you get to this point where you just walk around happy, and the glow that comes out of your skin, it's just like, that's why a pregnant woman looks amazing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that life destiny fulfillment is really good for the skin.
That's a good point. All right.
You know, people since I've been happy, like not that I wasn't happy prior, be like, oh, what's up with your, what are you doing with your fate? What's like, they just can't understand. It's like, oh, I'm just happy, dude. Like, just don't worry about it. Like, I'm just happy. They like, oh, you look younger. Like, yeah, I'm just happy.
Good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Well, what's next on the agenda for Joey Malinsky?
Well, I just got finished a big web series project that took me a while, right? So right now I'm doing these simple things that can complete my satisfaction in creative. But the next get is, what is my next big project? And I have two decent ideas that I want to pursue, but I'm on the early stages of them. I have to figure out what the heck's happening with where I'm living and what happening in this current election. I don't want to get into politics, but like, you know what I'm saying? That needs to solidify before me making a decision on what my next business step will be, because that's going to determine. My wife's from California, born in Mexico, family lives in California in that area. And do I raise a family there? Do I raise a family here? And that kind of deal. So that's a big one, which would dictate the business. The business is good and I could continue to grow it and get there, but I'm not a manager. I am a video production person and I can do that well. And that will get me far enough, even if I wanted to work by myself, but hopefully I have a small team and pay them a decent living kind of thing. So that, I mean, that growth is dependent on, to me, on the market and on whether or not there is going to be one. People need video. Video is not going anywhere, even if it's virtual, like you said, or live streaming or whatever. But so my goal is to solidify a steady income enough to where anybody would give me a house in the current, time frame, and then step up and do that next creative project, which is either going to be a game show and a feature film, or feature film and game show.
Yeah, I mean, I've been spending most of this time writing, outlining, prepping, shot listing, re-editing budgets, re-editing shot lists. And I don't want to like take all this time to like re-edit a script and re-edit it and re-edit it and re-edit it. And so it's like trying to spread what time out and not get too much inside my head as far as, projects and prep goes, and trying to, foresee, okay, what's the new normal, which I was going to ask you about, but trying to foresee what the new normal might be. And
I think you already hit it on it. It's the virtual stuff. I mean, that's where the new normal is going. And that's, we got a year and a half of that, you know what I'm saying? So there's a year and a half of that front line. To me, I decided I don't like that. That's not where my talents lie. I'm a narrative editor, pace editor, cutting together live action. I mean, cutting together live streams and stuff like that. Like if that was my job specifically, that's not where I don't have the technology talent. So I would be just subletting out everything. So I've been trying to avoid, I'm still trying to just like, we have a big contract doing, trying to get millennials into a certain field. So we're doing like jazzy edits, and that fits more down my pipeline. If the world only becomes virtual stuff, then I would probably sell houses or something.
Well, going back to what you mentioned about Palm Springs and Uncut Gems and, these independents that are, especially Palm Springs, where they found a way to make a feature film, a hilarious feature film, chock full of funny moments, great characters, and it's all one location. Four different sets, 4 different settings at the location. You had 2 different hotel rooms, the wedding, the reception, the pool.
Yep. And
then maybe a couple of small little pockets, like they were driving down the road.
Out in the woods. Yeah. Very small little other ones. Yeah.
In that cave. Like one day's at that at J.K. Simmons's house.
Yep.
And
you probably have J.K. for 3 days on the whole shoot.
Right. Exactly. If that. And so, years prior to the quarantine, I was always trying to look at these production hacks and try to figure out, okay, I can tell the same story, but if I want to do and I have a number of different web series that kind of take an opposite approach. If something's based on superheroes, going to do it in like a documentary form. But if something's if something's historical, or if something's more set in the real world, then take a comic book or a cartoon animated kind of turn to it, production wise, plot wise. But then doing all these different workarounds to save money, save time, save budget, minimal cast, minimal crew, even before quarantine, because a lot of my passion projects, we just don't have the budget, we don't have the time. I'm gigging it. I'm on different sets, in front or behind the camera, like to pay the bills, to feed the family. And a lot of my other colleagues are the same way. They've got clients and shows and things of that nature. And it's like, all right, come over one day. I got a totally different setup. And some of them are like, are these even production professional lights? I'm like, no, dude, they're $5 a pop at Home Depot.
Yeah.
You throw a soft little, burn-proof sheet over it, and that's a scrim, and it's all soft production lighting,
Yeah, to me, I come from the land of let's tell a story, and then the people behind me slow me down. Like, you have a good DP and he needs all this stuff. Like, I have a production company, so we have a lot of gear, but like, I'm always trying to be like, I don't want to use any of that. Can we just go fast? And like, now the cameras are getting to the point where they look better with less. You can light with one light. I was lucky enough to be a director's assistant for Wally Pfister, where he shot with a commercial. I think he used one light one time. He had a whole truckload of lights. You know what I'm saying? But he was like, that's not what his goal was. His goal was to make it look like what it looks like, but shoot it freaking masterfully. And he did. It looked great. not that I'm anywhere near that. I'm not even a cinematographer or nothing like that. I can barely get by. I can get by and look professional, but that's not where my talent lies. To me, let's just tell a good story, because a story, even on an iPhone, will get you there if you connect with somebody. You got to connect. I think people are, and I grew up in the same school that you did, where like, you know, Reservoir Dogs was one of my jams. So you're like, okay, we got just a warehouse is 90% of this movie, and
Exactly.
we heard that story, so we're like, that's what I want to do, and you know, spend the money on that car chase, and you know, and I get that, and I'm all for that. That's why I did like Palm Springs, because it's something, and that was one of my reasons, is because it was makeable, you know, and I think that was smart production, because you know, people are like Zack Snyder has the biggest budget, but I can't relate to any character in the damn thing. Like, I don't care. I'm sitting there like, yeah, it looks pretty, but who gives a shit? Yeah. Even if it's like, obviously I wouldn't be able to do that, and that's really, really, really talented filmmaking. But if I don't care, then I don't care. So, right. Or like Avengers they did both, you know, and there's, you know, a lot of movies that do both, Joker and all those, where you can get like a connection to the character and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like Joker was done so well. Like that could actually be done on a very indie. I mean, obviously it wasn't, but that could have been done on a very indie level.
Yeah, if the stakes weren't as high.
And exactly. But the thing is, like, Netflix found a way to do Daredevil and Punisher. These are the human non-powered superhero or super anti-heroes of the Marvel universe, and they did it so gritty and, you know, almost independently, maybe, and
definitely not as big as budget as a movie.
Yeah, and I'm sure all of season 1 of the Punisher was like only a tenth of what one Avengers movie was.
Oh yeah, easy.
But
it still looks like it didn't go to, like, even Daredevil and all them never made it to the quality of film. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't CW quality. We weren't there, but we weren't at film. We weren't at like a film. We were still in TV land with those, which, you know, is just really good TV. And TV has gotten to the point where that little bit of production value, that, like, you know, that cinema level of it people don't care. And some people don't even see it. And some people hate it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, oh, these blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't necessarily attract more people. I think it is a better art form, but it's like, who are you creating art for at that point?
Right. Nah, I mean, it was interesting to me, but see, I'm one of those guys that actually enjoys this whole massive Marvel Cinematic Universe, where, you know, Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 still ties into Thor and Captain America, and then they have this, you know, catalyst film on top of that, and then more films which all lead into this master film. Because
yeah, agree.
As opposed to 17 different Joker movies, or 17 different movies that involve the Joker, and you're just thinking to yourself, why do I care about any of these Jokers if none of the backstories are matching? That's problem, because they're original content, they're intellectual property, and DC sucks compared to Marvel, because the DC land has Batman is its only guy, to be honest with you. You're like, but the thing with Batman's story is better than most, if not all, of Marvel. So it's like that storyline is so relatable to everybody because it's a man, and the darkness, like that level is like, the new one with Robert Pattinson looks badass, dude. Like, the level of darkness that we know Batman's at, we can see that in that, and you can't go there with Iron Man. Iron Man doesn't get to do that. Spider-Man doesn't get to do that. Like, Cable, maybe, like, there's some people in that land. Punisher, definitely, because that's his land, but then you're also like putting a little on top of it, and I don't think Marvel would now, because of Joker's paving the way and the DC paving the way for it. But before, you couldn't crush a skull to the point where it's actually brutally beating down somebody with actual real violence, because that's what Batman you can. And that's the trick Fox pulled with Deadpool, because they had that whole X-Men in there, and they were like, okay, we're going to take a risk here. Hard R.
Yeah, hard R.
Superhero X-Men universe movie, hard R.
And we love Deadpool. Like, and we already loved Deadpool as a fan base. Yeah.
The Deadpool done right is the hard R Deadpool.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they're marketing for it. And I mentioned this a couple of times on the show before. They marketed it as a rom-com. They released it on Valentine's Day. they
Yeah.
on the posters they said a love story, because technically it was.
Oh yeah, well they marketed it like 19 different ways. They were genius about their marketing.
Yeah, and I mean, technically, it was a love story. Everything he was doing was to like rescue his girlfriend. So,
Yeah.
but it's just like I remember seeing that, and it was just like over the top, like when he smashed up his own body trying to beat up Colossus and all those other things, man. It was just, and then I think Deadpool 2 so close to killing an infant Hitler, man, and like all these just really getting there. But
and Deadpool 2 did good in terms of what it was, but I think they missed with the timing of it, because it was like almost too soon for us to like grab it. Like because we were at that point we were on a Superman, like a superhero ride, right? Deadpool almost not kicking off that ride, because obviously Avengers blasted it, but like that Deadpool was like such a jolt. And then they released one right after it, like Black Panther came out, and then it's just like we're on this ride, and then Deadpool 2 landed in a spot where we were like, it wasn't that attraction, even though that I think the movie held up good and it made a lot of money. But it was like, I think if they waited like 4 more months, they would have landed. There are so many soft spots in that zone that I think it would have been a little bit more appreciated. But I definitely enjoyed that film.
So I finally remembered the film, and I think you'd appreciate this film. Ultra independent sci-fi horror, or maybe not horror, sci-fi thriller called Coherence, and it's on Hulu. And so basically, there's a comet going over, and there's and about 8 people are having a dinner party. And spoiler alert, they find themselves caught in like this quantum flux.
Okay.
Right. Have you ever seen Primer? Time travel.
No.
So it reminds me of Primer. So Primer is another one. It's a time travel movie, and it only takes place at a house and a warehouse. And it's such a genius way of pulling off a time travel movie. And then Coherence finds such a unique, and there's a lot of people in it. There's about 8 characters in it at this dinner party, but it's all about being caught in like this quantum flux of reality and dimensions and universes and things like that. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's definitely another one of those top independent films that people find, and I always call it a production hack. It's like this.
I get that.
Yeah, and it definitely stood out for me as like, all right, I'm coming up with some ideas on like how to pull off some cool ideas. Well, what's your view of the new normal?
I don't know, dude. New normal. Like I said, like, are we there yet? Are we at a new normal? I mean, like I said, I've learned a lot of stuff. I think we need mental health out the wazoo. I think that needs to be brought to the forefront as equal to physical health. I think I guess a socialist, if you want to call it, but I'm a universal healthcare person, to the point where like I think it should be a basic right because it matters to the health of our country. And I think mental health needs to be put onto that, because a lot of drug use is done because of it. I think drug use I'm in Baltimore City, and the drug use increase in this city has been insane, and the ability for it to be open, rampant, and unmitigated is unfortunate. And I think the new normal of this, we don't know what's happening at this particular point, and the misinformation campaigns that are on the internet for both fun and propaganda and forced is working and effective. And I think we need to come together as a one to become healed in the point of this is going to be tough.
Yeah. What I've noticed in the last year, maybe 2 years, is that there's just too much selfishness.
Tons.
And people have lost sight that, that selfishness is going to come back around. That selfishness, it's not building this country, and it's not improving this country, and I don't mind getting a little political, but
sure.
Like this
I
whole,
just don't know where you stand. So I wasn't trying to.
I'm Democrat.
Take over your, yeah. Well, yeah.
And you can.
I don't consider myself a anything. I'm an independent thinker. Like it depends on like I do line up with mostly Democrats on a lot of the issues, but to me, we're in a stable where I don't know. I think the media of an older generation not understanding how media works is, how old are you?
I'm 40.
40. Yeah, you're right at that clip. Like, meaning like you're lucky that you know exactly what you know of how to use the internet. I would say most of your companions and friends do not at your age, right? My brother's 42. You're like right on the mark.
Yeah.
I'm 37. So like I would say I have 25% of my people don't know the internet well enough. And my brother, I find his generation is way more than that. So you're like in the middle. I don't know about 40. So but you're like right on that cusp because you got internet at the right age. You probably had it in college. You went through the tech part of it there. And I imagine you were into it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you never lost it. And so your friends might not have lost it. But I'm just saying like, that's close to being like 46. They have a totally different experience. So they're getting this barrage of information that they don't process well. Right. I mean, and I'm not talking about the 60-year-olds who have like little chance, in my opinion. Like the email that comes to them that is getting directed, that is a trap email. And how many percentages of it is a trap email? Most of it. And it's very like, you can explain it to them a million times, they're still not going to get it because you have to be able to identify. Right. And there's times where I've been tricked with one, because it's like, if you're working with somebody that you work like me and you, right? That's a moment of weakness between us because we've had limited contacts. So, and they're monitoring what we're doing if you're a hacker, right? If you're in that zone or if you're manipulating information. So this interaction would be the one you target, because I would be like, hey man, sorry, I need to send you a late new Zoom link. Please click on it because we're going to go live. And all that needed to get was my Google Calendar to do that. And I would have clicked that without any question.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I know that's my connection. It's one line. And there's just too many of those to stop. But
right.
I do have faith in us. I think we made a turn. I think the tape of him saying things that he can't say on, think about Trump saying, he knew it was airborne in January, at the end of January or early February.
He even admitted that he underplayed it.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to cause a panic. But at the same time, so let me backtrack here. So
I'm just saying that is going to heal us, because we hear it from him. All the other news wouldn't be worth it. It doesn't matter. It's somebody else saying it. We heard it from him.
So, for the past almost 10 years, I've been in the DC Army National Guard. So I was always careful about what I said about the boss. Mm-hmm. But ever since he said what he said about our fallen comrades, and those who died, serving for
it's heartbreaking
for him to sit on what he considers a throne. I think it's shameful. But I don't
know anybody that's ever said, like, even if you don't agree with what the military does, I've never heard anybody say anything about them being not the bravest men, because we did not put ourselves in that situation. I've never heard it personally in my area. I've heard racist stuff. I've actually never heard that. So it's pretty mind-blowing.
I just never heard anybody with the gall to say, they're chumps and suckers and losers. Like, you got my wife was like, I'm not a fan of the military because I don't think we should be in wars. And then we have this back and forth, like, well, no shit. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Of course, military don't. I'm going to be very careful about how I phrase this. But most soldiers, I think, don't want to go out and kill people. Mm-mm. You know what I mean? But they're willing to serve their country in what fashion needs to be done to guarantee, freedoms and peace worldwide. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, there are some activities and duties, there's some actions that need to be taken that suck.
That suck.
I don't want to be in some crazy situations, but I knew what I signed up for.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's,
and you're hoping that the calls, and I've talked to a lot of military just because I'm very interested in it, and I always ask them about their experience and listen. And I would say very few of them have said that they weren't there for a reason and it wasn't needed. Like most of them said, it was good. Like we needed to be there, in there. And I didn't see there was, they were pretty much down the line on that. And I don't know if that's something that they wouldn't want to tell me, but they said they did some people did some, there's a couple knuckleheads that I don't even consider I wasn't even.
There's always one
that was bragging about stuff. But I don't consider him his IQ at a level that he was signing up for the military and a different reason for, you know what I'm saying? And that one's I don't count. But the rest of them this is what we need to be doing.
Yeah. And I've dealt with like some retirees and some formers that would, you know, boast or, you know, talk trash about like, oh, you know, I did this, yeah. And they're really just throwing extra icing on the cake. That, dude, you really,
yeah,
that's not really.
And hopefully he only tells it to you. Because you guys been through that, right? Or even though I'm saying like I mean, I imagine the brotherhood would be a little bit different than what they're talking to me about.
Well, look, I only had one deployment, and we ran a jail for other U.S. military that screwed up. Okay. And so my career is in military police corrections. And so we're either going to deal with, you know, the terrorists that we have captured, or we're dealing with
our dumbasses,
or we're running jails. Like we house our own soldiers that screw up. Yeah. So we handle them. So listen, my first deployment was kind of smooth sailing. We were in Kuwait, and it's not, that's not a combat zone. But still, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like 9 months away from home, nowhere to go. It's too complicated to get off base, so you're just chilling in your barracks or the gym, and it start getting cabin fever, and you're away from home and away from loved ones. But I can tell when I hear other people talking about their deployments or what they consider their deployments, and it's, you know, some yes, some no. But yeah, you got a couple of knuckleheads that think they did more than that try to pass off like they did more than they did, and you kind of have to, you know, have a sharp ear to kind of pick those out. But I mean, for someone that, you know, there's all the different sides say, you know, Trump is a 5-time draft dodger. I mean, I honestly haven't done my research. I haven't done my own investigation on Trump, and I'm not going to bother to. But no, from what I understand, draft dodger or not, he didn't serve. I know that he didn't serve, and so it's like just to say something like that is just. He also said he knows more than the generals. Like, what are you talking about? You don't read. So, like, you don't read the briefings. You don't know more than the generals. Like, you can't, like, if somebody said that, it's like he said he can edit better than me. It's like, did you spend 10, 15 years editing? Like, no, because, like, you might think you know how to, like, oh, you need to put this here, but that's not actually doing it, and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Right. You can't say you know anything about something you've never done, period. And so what bothered me, he said, you know, apparently he was dogging top brass about, you know, doing this and starting this and starting that in order to make profits off the military industrial complex. Well, he's calling out National Guard, especially in DC, you know, to like block off the street so he can walk down the street unharmed, you know, and look like a tough guy. And it's just, that was, I'm just, you know, like I was trying to be quiet for the longest time because I'm serving, because he's the boss, unfortunately. But, but it's like, okay, now you said that. Now you said that shit. Okay, I'm not going to be as quiet. I'm still not going to like. Yeah, you can. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. But we're in a point where you might have to tamper it down. You know what I'm saying? And that's not cool either. Not that because what happens is you're supposed to respect it in general where it wouldn't matter. But now that there's no two sides to that coin. There's no obligation, but the fact that there's no obligation means but he is the person that would seek that out. And that's the worst kind of leader, in my opinion. That's what I'm saying. If he gets reelected, I think it's an IQ test on our country and what our values are. And they wouldn't align with mine at that particular moment. So I would then have to decide where I want to live. Right. California is very progressive in terms of, like, I don't buy into all the things they do, but I lived out there for a while. And I know what, you know, my wife's Mexican. My parents somehow, my child would be then Mexican, you know what I'm saying? And the building of the wall was just disrespectful. And I would call from the border, my wife's family's from a border town, and be like, they're inaccurately reporting about this. Can you believe me? And they won't, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, so that machine is powerful. And also, like, what do we, like, they're fleeing their country for betterment of little kids. Like, what are we doing here? The drugs are coming in, yes, but the drugs are right down my street. Like, I can find drugs in 6 minutes. So what are you talking about? But half the Trumps, you know, half of these racist redneck hillbillies that are supporting Trump are making meth in their basement.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that is. I
Listen,
never even thought about that. I never thought about the amount of drugs that they actually do, because oh my God, they're totally the demographic for the drugs.
Right.
That drug.
Yeah, and
drugs in general. Like, all the time.
And at this point, you'd have to be, if you're still a Trump supporter, you'd have to be a meth head.
That's true.
Maybe not.
I'm hoping that the percentage is like 37% of the country, and it's a pretty big landslide. And then I would have some faith again, but I don't know.
But listen, I don't have an issue with having very strict, concise immigration policies.
Me neither.
But it's just the way you pass it off, and it's the way you present it, and it's the way, and it's who he's a cat caller. He's what is it? Is it cat calling? Is it
whistleblower?
No,
he's like dog whistle.
Dog whistle. That's what. So he's a dog whistler,
yeah.
And he's reaching out to one group and telling them one thing, and he's reaching out to another group telling them something totally different. He could give two shits. He wants votes. He wants support from all sides, but he's not presenting them all with the same story to get that. But it's
it's just cheap propaganda at this point.
Yeah, cheap propaganda, absolutely.
But it's effective. I mean, I come from advertising in the world of branding, where I ask, how do you want me for this person to react? How do you want me to, because you can manipulate images and video to make them do stuff. People, enough times, there's just statistics. You show somebody something enough times, it will work in a way if you do it X way. Now, it burns your heart sometimes if you're doing it for wrong reasons, and I don't do that very often. But that is something. We can study human psychology to know how groups of people, especially groups of people, react to a thing. That's why they field test. That's why they A/B test it, because they have theories. They prove the theories. They push the content, and they push it at a volume that equals the numbers. I mean, it's just, at that point, it becomes math, and it becomes so. Yeah, I mean, you can't. That's what I'm saying. You can't stop the flood. I can't stop it. My mom will call me and say, the worst things in the world are happening. And I'm like, Mom, I can tell you how this is fake, but I can't tell you how the next one is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
you'll get 25 of them a day.
And to touch upon that, where you were saying like the older generation is struggles with technology. And I've been saying this to I've been saying this to family, like older family, which leads to the phrase progressive. Like I've always thought of myself as a progressive, thinking outside the box. What else? Like I have an American flag here, but I'm a liberal patriot. So when people see this, they're like, "Oh, are you a Trump supporter?" I'm like, "No, I'm not a Republican." But
I'm for the flag. I love the flag. I have a flag in front of my house.
But I'm a vet. I'm a service member. I'm a patriot, but I'm a progressive and a liberal as well. So, to agree with you upon certain points, I'm kind of an independent, middle, but more progressive, way more progressive liberal. And, like I would butt heads with a lot of older folks, like, progressives. Who cares how somebody wants to be identified? Who cares about gender this and race that? Why does that bother you? I'm like, listen, let me see your phone. I'm not a progressive. Well, let me see your phone. Oh, this is an Android. You can't have this. You have to have a rotary phone with an answering machine, with an audio cassette, and you have to go home to check your voicemails. You have to go home to use your phone. Yeah. Because progressives invented this, by the way. Yeah. And you're using it. And so and I had another person butt heads with me. I'm a Trump supporter because I'm a capitalist. I'm like, if you're a capitalist, you might want to be a progressive, because all this shit that's coming out is invented by progressives. The cell phone, Zoom, all the shit that you're going to be using in a year or two. And if you're
capitalist, I agree with that.
A proper capitalist would be a progressive as well, and invest in progressive ideas, thinking outside the box, acceptance of new ideas.
Yeah, I would say a venture capitalist, definitely. A capitalist himself, once you have money, the Republican side helps you protect that money a lot more than the progressive side, due to tax loopholes and how you shuffle around your money. But once I found that out, how wages labored, how wages taxed versus, obviously the biggest example is like Jeff Bezos Amazon pays no taxes because of the way that the corporate tax structure is set up and how you can move money around with without taking a salary. He doesn't take a salary. He doesn't have any money. Nobody pays him anything, and he still makes shit tons of money because it's structured that way. And that's been held up by both sides, but also I would, capitalistic conservative side they're the one that take the money more often to keep that going. I'm not against it though. That's the thing. I think the highest of the high should definitely be taxed heavy because they're not taxed at all. My thing is, I don't think you should be taxed. I think it should be even throughout. And then once there gets to a point, I think it should have to be trickled down. I don't think during a economic crash like it is, Bezos should make 200 billion, be at worth 200 billion, increase it what he's done because we are reliant upon his systems that, I would hit him for everything you can because I would say your negative cost to the environment is put our country at X amount of money. There's a negative cost to your business. In a capitalist nation without the regulation, there's a very limited amount of penalties. But in this situation where our country is hurting, you don't get to do that, in my opinion, because your wealth can't grow that much because there's no need for it to grow that much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think we should shut your business down or hinder your growth of your business at all by putting regulations that would just to hinder growth. But I do think the amount of capitalism at that particular moment, especially at this particular moment, because he's now worth 200 billion. The line went just because
after the divorce.
Oh, I don't know how much she got, but I imagine she's sitting pretty. But The current stat is 200 billion.
Okay, so that's probably just him now.
I wouldn't imagine.
Right. If that's post divorce, yeah, because I think he got divorced 2-3 years ago. And
this is mainly. His wealth grew exponentially during this quarantine.
During the quarantine, yeah.
I use Amazon products all the time. I love it.
Yeah, I think there's a box out our front stoop like every other day.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Every other day, especially because we have a newborn. So there's a box out front every other day.
Yeah, and I'm not against it. That's what I'm saying. I think it's I think he did it. He made it. It's smart. I like it. We all like it.
But I think there's just something wrong. Let's say someone's worth 200 billion. What's wrong with taking $50 billion?
Nothing.
And pumping it into something. I'm not saying just like put it back into the U.S. government's pocket or because I know we're in a deficit.
Yeah, we're in a deficit,
and
we're horrible at spending money.
And we're true, but why would not someone that has $200 billion, $300 billion, billions, mind you, and just be like, hey, here's 50 billion. Let's fix something. Well,
that's what I'm saying. I thought Trump here's what I thought Trump was going to do when he got in. Because he said, let's make America great. And he started talking about infrastructure when he was running. I would have done all the easy ones first. I would have got us the best internet grid in the world. I would have saved all our water. We would have the best clean water in the whole world. And I would say that stupid shit. Like, we're going to have the best internet in the world. We'll have the best water in the world. Our grid system's going to be the best in the world. Now get it done, people. And nobody would have been mad at him. Spend all the freaking money you want on that crap. We wouldn't have cared. And we would have rallied behind it because we need all that. And we're actually way behind on all that. So, and even if we're not the best in the world, we could think we're the best in the world. That's fine too. You know what I'm saying? In areas that benefit everybody. But we didn't do that. We ran pipelines. We gutted regulations. I'm on the Chesapeake Bay. Our crabbing population has been getting better and better. I grew up on the water. CrossBridge Productions is my company because I used to have to go across the bridge to get to anywhere. I grew up on Ken Island and cut all my funding that was helping the Bay, polluted it again. We're going to lose 20 years of recovery in 8 years, and in 4 years, in 8 years if it's worst case scenario. But in 4 years, they lost all their funding, and then now they have to privately beg for everything. You know what I'm saying? And it's we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't have got rid of land. He shouldn't be drilling on public land. There's no point. I just don't understand why he didn't do stuff that we all could be the Space Force could have been even badass instead of what.
Yeah. Clearly they kicked off Space Force more with the show than they did in real life.
Yeah, exactly. I know. But DOD, it gets added onto the end of the Navy Federal commercial now. It's DOD and Space Force families.
Right. Because Musk is running SpaceX, right?
Yeah, which is cool. We all behind that.
Yeah. But that's him.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
That's not Trump. That's not the government. That's private.
Yeah, it's awesome. And everybody loves it.
And wasn't NASA shut down? Like, did they restart NASA? Did they?
Well, they made them code probably. It seems. I don't know 100%, so don't quote me. But it sounded like they're like had to partner with people now. It's like there's a NASA branch, but the funding got cut, so they have to partner up with people like SpaceX. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of lame.
Yeah, I know. Because like I remember growing up and it was like NASA. And it was
and how cool was NASA? Like that wasn't like if somebody said I'm going to try to be an astronaut, NASA astronaut, you'd be like, that's pretty cool, man. Like I can't do that, but I want to do that.
No one said NASA. If someone said I'm going to grow up to be an astronaut, you knew it would just be NASA.
Yeah, NASA.
Like no one said NASA astronaut. They're like I'm gonna be an astronaut. Okay, and then so you're going to be in a rocket ship with NASA on the side. That's like the organization. But now it's like I'm gonna be a SpaceX astronaut or Space Force astronaut or a NASA NASA co-hybrid with whatever the fuck astronaut. Now it's like a brand, right? NASA's just a fucking brand, like MGM, but also like the brand MGM came back as like, but MGM's owned by somebody else now.
Yeah. Also, NASA like invented so much cool crap that we use every day that it's like, I don't mind pumping, like we pump money into the military to the amount of XYZ. And even like I would have been for him backing out of all these countries, except for they didn't want us out of there on a lot of the back out, especially the Germany one, which I think strengthens Russia for no reason. When we had Germany's become a leader in the world, especially on green economy, and people have looking at Angela Merkel like a leader. So I wouldn't want us to go off that partnership. And I didn't understand us pulling out in that particular moment because there was no ask for it when we are, because then it's kind of breaking down what we're doing as a whole giant military strategy in general. Like if we're going to be spending the money, I definitely want us in the allies that we actually can work side by side if there's an actual threat from a person that I consider as a foe. Like I never understood our military moves currently, even though I never necessarily agreed with them prior. I didn't understand the Middle East movement because I just thought that was too complex of an issue for us to be over there. But being in Germany to hold back Russia, I like that. Yeah. And that seems like the only place he pulled us out. So I was like, I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, because he pissed somebody off, and he pissed somebody off. Someone said something back, and he's probably not used to that.
Yeah, he's definitely not.
And then he's like, okay, end everything. And then it's because, maybe before he was just as a businessman and as a brand, no one said boo to him until he went bankrupt. And then he was like, okay, let's shift gears, blah, blah, blah. And then no one said boo to him.
Yeah.
And now people are like, it doesn't work like that. And he's like, I don't care.
Oh, yeah, I know.
All right, dude. Well,
peace.
Look at you now. I mean, it's just, and now it's like, let's just admit everything to Bob Woodward.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That's crazy.
Like that's going to help.
Well, he didn't know he's doing that. He's not doing the two things. His tone was totally different though. I also feel like if he does get in again, like if he wins again, Germany and all those places are holding their breath like the American people are holding their breath. You know what I'm saying? If he gets another 4 years, they're not going to hold their breath any longer. They know what they're in for another, and they can then make play in action, because you have to assume the first year they're just as confused as we are as a people, what's happening in the country. And then they have to deal with a rotating circus of who they're actually dealing with. And then it's like, okay, well, let's just wait this out. But if they get another 4 years, we're going to lose allies left and right, because we've already pulled out of so many joint ventures that it seems like why not serpent? Why not what is that word? But why not
circumvent?
Yeah, circumvent power. Because why not? Because nobody in the world trusts us, our lead currently. So why wouldn't they try to? Not necessarily they wouldn't attack us, but like leave us for our own.
Well, Trump would say, why not supervent? Because he's
I know, yeah.
He thinks he's super, and he likes to vent. So let's supervent our powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
sorry, I didn't mean to go down that route.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
What are we making? What are we making? What are you making now? What's your project?
So I have two web series, Rogues Gallery and Sinister Infinite. And like I was telling you, I took Rogues Gallery as DC Universe and Sinister Infinite as Marvel Universe, but we produced them in the style of those, for lack of a better word, cheap crime shows on ID.
Oh yeah.
Now don't get me wrong, I love those crime shows.
Yeah. I've been in them. I've acted in them.
I've acted in them too. I've been a detective in maybe 30 different episodes of 30 different of those shows.
Nice.
When I say cheap, I should say like very low budget. I've been on some sets and I'm just blown away by what they've done to like take one house and it's 7 different locations, 5 different decades, and they shot it all in one house and maybe that backyard. And it's so I learned a lot from these. So that's where I got the idea, like, do this web series. It's almost like origin stories of all these different villains, obscure villains. I mean, we're talking about like B and C level villains of DC and or Marvel, and they're done in like the crime show. So you got like these, you know, experts. Clark Kent is like a talking head, and he's like, you know, since he's a reporter at the Daily Planet in Metropolis, he knows all about these different villains and what they've done. And then there's, you know, your dramatic reenactments, which basically is, you know, some footage that we shot, and you just, if you blur it and you put like a bluish tint to it, it looks dramatic. And then and so third seasons where we're going to try to produce the best we can during COVID, produce the third seasons, and then again, because of quarantine, I got nothing but editing time to chop them up. And you know, maybe some, like, I got a couple of other small little unique ideas of, you know, maybe some short films that could work double as pitch projects for something bigger. And we're gonna try that. You know, another independent film I saw on Shudder is a horror movie called Host, and it's basically a demonic possession film. All takes place on Zoom. And they straight up use Zoom. Zoom is shown everywhere. And you know, a couple of cool little, you know, ideas that I got from that, and you know, just the podcast, you know, just keep reaching out to awesome guests like yourself and try to get this podcast picked up. That's if there's one last point or bit of advice that you've got for our viewers, what would that be?
How is this? Who are your viewers? Are they filmmakers?
There are about 4 people. I don't know who they are. I mean, like, I'm, you know, and honestly, I'm still trying to, you know, build my audience. Sure. But I mean, I generally probably, you know, other filmmakers, media professionals, if not just YouTube fans. Yeah.
I mean, I would say always find your truth. Find that truth. Do that truth. If you're in video, the way I hire and fire, or the way I definitely hire, is you gotta make videos, man. If I check your page and you've had one video, it's like, well, you don't have an iPhone, you don't have you can make a video. I can make a video in 20 minutes from right now. Like, you know, and I probably will, you know what I'm saying? So if I don't see you have video, make videos, just make them, just do it. You learn more in film school by doing a film than film school, you know what I'm saying? So obviously learn as many sets as you can go on, but like, you know, you were on those sets for the TV shows, and then you're like, okay, these are, I mean, from what I've learned, they're like $100,000 budgets for the whole episode, which is not a lot, but so it means they're really low budget in terms of actual film production, but because they're spending on video and post and all, like, a music licensing and all that crap. But they're shot with 4-man crews sometimes, 5-man crews sometimes. Props, they're constantly the day of, right? Calling the night before, I need 3 people in the set still the day before, you know what I'm saying? So they don't have long pre-production land. They're fast turnarounds, and they get that crap done. But they are, you know, very watchable stuff too. Like, that dominates the land. So I would just say keep working. I just, you know, find your truth, make stuff, make shit.
I love it, man. Well, I can't thank you enough, Joey. Any links, socials, plugs you want to put out there?
Joey Malinsky on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And I'm on YouTube too, but Joey Malinsky. TikTok. Dude, that's fuck you, Trump. But no, TikTok. Yeah. I'm loving it.
My wife got addicted to TikTok so bad she had to delete it.
It's addicting, dude.
She was making fun of me for a while, and then she got addicted.
Yeah.
And then she was showing me a bunch of TikToks, and then she had to delete it. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll get to the point of deletion, but luckily that's what I want to do. So it's like, it's fun.
Yeah. Joey, I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Learned a lot. Great conversation. I think this was the most political I got, but
Sorry, dude.
But no, that's great. You're lucky. You're my first guest, I think, since he said that shit. So I was ready.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. I know that's a bad one.
I was ready. Well, Joey, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on. To my viewers, I hope I've earned the privilege of your time and viewership. I know my guest has. And you know what to do. Check us out next time.
Thanks.